Hello everyone, today I'll be showing you how to code the game Tic Tac Toe with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I'm going to use VSCode for this tutorial, so I'll link relevant content in the description, and this tutorial will be a bit fast-paced, so feel free to pause the video if it's too quick. Alright, let's get coding. First, make the files index.html, styles.css, and script.js. Go into the HTML file and type an exclamation mark and then a tab. This will bring up some default HTML which we can edit from here. Add in a link tag and enter in the CSS file name that we created. Then make a script tag and link it to the JavaScript file. Let's change the title to something like Tic Tac Toe Game, and now we can get some icons to put in our code. Go to fonts.google.com/icons and download a refresh and a game icon as PNGs. Make an icons folder within the code directory and put the image files in there. Next, we can go into the HTML file and put our game icon in the icon tag. In the body, we can make a nav tag with the class of topNav. Inside that, make 3 divs with the classes reload, header, and active player. Put an A tag in the reload div referring to index.html. Within that, put an image with the reload icon as its source. The header div will have the text Tic Tac Toe in it, and the player div will have player-x. Now create a main after the navbar with a div in it that has the class of board. This will be our Tic Tac Toe board later. At the end of the body tag after main, make a div with the class name of GameOverDisplay. If you open up the page now, you should see the white screen with HTML entered in on it. Now the HTML is done, so we can move on to the rest of the code. For the CSS, I'll link a GitHub page so that you can copy and paste the styles. And by the way, I'd love to see any tries that you may have for modifying the code that I show here, whether it be to make the program look better or to add functionality. Feel free to comment on the video and link a project for me to look at. So now, if you have the CSS from my GitHub page copied into the project, the page setup should look like this. Now onto the JavaScript, which is the main part of the project which makes the games functional. Make a constant called boardElement and set it to select the board class. Create another constant called tileStatuses that will be an object with values x, o, and unmarked. Now one more variable named ActivePlayer should be defined as x, and all of the data items will be defined. So when we first load the page, we want to create a 3x3 grid of tiles within the board. Let's make a function called createBoard that will do just that when called. To start off, make an array called board. Next, make a for loop going to x equals 3. Within the for loop, define another array called row and call another for loop, this time until y equals 3. Inside this loop, create a constant called element which creates a new div. Next, set element status to unmarked and create an object called tile. Tile's parameters will be element, x, and y, as well as a get and set method for status. After that, push tile to row, then push row to board, and finally have the function return board. Now we can make a new constant at the top called board with the createBoard function. Hey, this is future me, make sure that board is after tile statuses. Next, make a script to add event listeners to each tile within the board, as well as appending tile divs to the HTML board. For each event listener, a function markTile and checkWin will be called. Let's write the markTile function first. The function will have its parameter as tile. If the tile status is unmarked, then return. If the active player is x, then set tile status to x, set the text within the tile to x, and change the active player. If the active player is y, then vice versa. Last, the active player display on the navbar needs to be updated. Now that we have the markTile function defined, all we have to do is check for a win each time a tile is marked. Define a checkWin function with the parameter of tile. Future me again, make sure that it's tile input, not tile. Make constants for the x, y, and status values of the tile input. Now we need to make variables counting the amount of tiles that could qualify for each win condition, as well as a variable for the total amount of marked tiles. For each tile, set up 5 if statements, adding to each counter under the different conditions. After that, make an if statement testing if any of the win condition counters are equal to 3. If so, then call a gameEnd function for the winning player. If the test fails, then test if the active tiles count is greater than or equal to 9. If so, then call the gameEnd function for draw. Finally, let's make the gameEnd function that we just called. It will have one input called player. Create a constant called GameOverDisplay, which will select the class GameOverDisplay. Make a variable called GameOverText, setting it to player, and then put it in this if statement for displaying if the match is a win or a draw. Next, we have to make the game over screen appear using this code, as well as displaying the win conditions on the screen. Let's add an event listener so that the player has the option to hide the game over display. And finally, we can add an event listener to board element, which will stop the tiles from being clickable. Now that all of the code is completed, you can run it in your browser or put it on a website. The final product now is a fully functional game of Tic Tac Toe. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, then maybe check out more of my content. Consider subscribing if you want to know when I release my next video. I'll see you next time, and until then, have a nice day.